You can tell everything you need to know about a person by one simple thing: what they do. Not what they say, not what they promise. What they do when it matters. Because words can lie, but patterns don't. When someone truly values you, you'll feel it in their consistency, not in their compliments. And when they don't, you'll feel that too. So pay attention. Because if they do this, if they cross this line, if they keep showing you the same behavior, they're not confused. They're communicating. And the moment you finally believe their actions, everything changes. People can say anything. They can tell you they care. They can promise they'll change. They can look you in the eyes and swear they mean every word. But at the end of the day, words are cheap if they aren't backed up by what someone does. Actions are the real language of truth. They don't need subtitles. They don't need explanations. And they don't need second chances to make sense. What a person chooses to do when no one's watching, what they choose to repeat even after you've told them it hurts, what they prioritize when it's inconvenient. That's where their honesty lies. It's not in what they tell you, it's in how they show up. When someone respects you, you'll see it in the small, ordinary moments. They'll keep their word even when it costs them comfort. They'll listen without interrupting, not because they're perfect, but because they care about understanding you. They'll take accountability when they mess up, not deflect or turn it back on you. You won't have to beg for effort. It'll just be there quietly, consistently, because respect doesn't have to announce itself. It's visible through action. But when someone doesn't truly value you, you'll feel it before you see it. The tone changes. The effort fades. They'll still talk, still say the right things when it suits them, but something about it will feel hollow. They'll tell you what you want to hear, but their actions will pull in the opposite direction. They'll apologize without adjusting, promise without performing, commit without following through. That's the quiet contradiction that reveals the truth when someone's behavior keeps breaking the promise their words made. Believe their behavior. We often get stuck in this cycle of wanting to be understanding. We tell ourselves that people are busy, stressed, distracted. We convince ourselves that it's just a phase, that maybe we're overreacting, that we should be more patient. And yes, empathy matters, but empathy without awareness is how you end up making excuses for being mistreated. You can be kind and still hold people accountable. You can understand someone's struggle without allowing it to justify how they treat you. The hardest part about emotional maturity is realizing that someone's pain may explain their actions, but it doesn't excuse them. Actions reveal priorities. If someone wants to talk to you, they will. If they want to make things right, they'll try. If they want you in their life, you'll feel included, not tolerated. You won't have to decode mixed signals because consistency doesn't create confusion. People who truly care don't keep you guessing. They don't show up only when it's convenient. They don't play games with your peace of mind. Their actions bring clarity, not chaos. And it's not always about big gestures. Sometimes the truth is in the smallest patterns. The way they talk to you when they're angry, whether they listen when you speak, whether they remember the things that matter to you, whether they follow through on what they said they do. Those little things are actually the loudest indicators of character. Anyone can act right when the spotlight's on, but who they are when they think it doesn't matter, that's who they really are. The problem is, we often hear what we want to hear instead of seeing what's right in front of us. We cling to words because they sound comforting. We replay the good moments because they feel familiar. We tell ourselves, they said they care, even though their actions have shown the opposite for weeks, months, maybe even years. But the truth doesn't hide forever. Sooner or later, their actions will start to speak louder than their apologies. And you'll have to decide whether you'll keep listening to what you're being told or start believing what you're being shown. When you start to see patterns instead of promises, everything changes. You stop chasing clarity from people who benefit from your confusion. You stop justifying effort that only flows one way. You stop trying to translate mixed messages because mixed messages are already an answer. The moment you let actions become the evidence, you free yourself from emotional guessing games. You stop asking, do they care? And start saying, their actions told me enough. There's power in paying attention. There's strength in silence. Sometimes you don't need to argue or explain or demand someone to treat you better. You just need to observe. When someone shows you through their behavior that you don't matter as much as you thought, that realization hurts, but it's also clarity. And clarity is freedom. Because the truth may sting, but it never confuses. Think about it. How many times have you forgiven the same behavior after hearing the same apology? How many times have you believed change was coming because someone said it would? How many times have you waited for effort that never showed up? We all do it because we want to believe the best in people. We want to believe love, friendship, or family will be enough to inspire someone to do better. But people don't change because of what you hope. They change because they choose to. And that choice is visible through action, not intention. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop accepting words that aren't supported by actions. Stop rewarding people who take without giving. Stop confusing potential with consistency. Because potential is a promise about tomorrow, but actions are the truth about today. And the truth will always tell you where you stand. People often say, actions speak louder than words, but what they forget is that actions whisper constantly. They don't need to be loud to be clear. The way someone respects your time, the way they show up when it's inconvenient, the way they talk about you when you're not around, all of those things are the unspoken sentences that reveal how they truly feel. And when you learn to listen to those whispers, you'll never need to ask for explanations again. You don't need to overanalyze. You don't need to test people. You just need to watch them. Over time, their patterns will expose their priorities. Their effort will show their investment. Their silence will tell you what words never could. Actions always tell the truth. They just don't always tell it gently. But truth isn't supposed to be gentle. It's supposed to be real. And that's the hardest, but most freeing lesson. When you start letting actions reveal the truth, you stop living in denial. You stop trying to paint people prettier than they've proven to be. You stop giving more chances to behavior that keeps showing you who they are. Because no matter what someone says, how they act is who they are. Consistency is one of the clearest signs of genuine respect. Anyone can treat you well for a day, a week, or even a few months. Anyone can say the right things when they want something or when they're afraid of losing you. But the real test of character isn't found in moments of intensity. It's found in the quiet repetition of care. Consistency isn't glamorous, but it's everything. It's what turns words into trust and promises into proof. When someone truly respects you, their effort doesn't come and go with their mood. It doesn't depend on whether things are easy or comfortable. Their behavior aligns with their values, not their convenience. The people who respect you don't just show up when it's fun. They show up when it's hard, too. They keep their tone steady even when the conversation gets uncomfortable. They don't weaponize silence or disappear when things don't go their way. They don't apologize one day and repeat the same behavior the next. Their actions create a pattern that gives you peace. You don't have to wonder where you stand because their consistency answers that for you every single time. They don't make you chase clarity because clarity is built into the way they treat you. But when someone doesn't truly respect you, you'll notice inconsistency first. The shifts, the sudden coldness, the selective effort. They'll show up with kindness when they want forgiveness and distance when they feel safe again. They'll give attention only when you pull away. They'll make you feel valued one moment and forgotten the next. That kind of emotional whiplash isn't an accident, it's a sign. Because inconsistency isn't just about behavior, it's about priorities. People are consistent with what they care about. When something or someone truly matters, they make space for it. They protect it. They nurture it. They don't leave it guessing. Respect doesn't mean perfection. It means predictability. You know that even if they make a mistake, they'll own it. You know that even when they're frustrated, they won't attack you. You know that their kindness doesn't depend on whether you agree with them. That's what builds trust. The ability to count on someone not because they never change, but because their principles don't. You can't have emotional safety without consistency because safety lives in stability. You can't feel valued when you're constantly wondering which version of someone you'll get today. Inconsistency breeds anxiety. It keeps you overthinking, checking your tone, replaying conversations in your head, trying to figure out what went wrong. You start feeling like you're walking on eggshells, constantly adjusting yourself just to avoid another shift in their mood. That's not connection. That's control. Because when respect is real, you don't have to perform for it. You don't have to earn it by being perfect. It's steady, even when life isn't. It's the kind of consistency that lets you breathe. The reason consistency is so rare is because it requires emotional discipline. It's easy to be kind when you feel like it. It's harder to be kind when you don't. It's easy to keep promises when they're convenient. It's harder when they require sacrifice. That's why consistent people stand out. They treat others well, not because it's easy, but because it's who they are. They don't adjust their morals based on their mood. They don't treat people according to how much they need them. They act from a place of principle, not preference. Think about the people in your life who make you feel calm. Chances are, it's not because they're loud or dramatic. It's because they're consistent. You know what to expect from them. You know their words carry weight because they follow through. That reliability builds trust quietly, moment by moment. And trust built on consistency lasts longer than passion built on impulse. Because emotions fade, but integrity doesn't. You can tell when respect is real because it doesn't disappear during disagreement. Consistent people don't punish you with silence or resentment when you set boundaries. They may not always like what you say, but they'll still respect your right to say it. They don't treat you with decency only when you're doing something for them. They treat you with decency because that's who they are. Respect that only exists when things are easy isn't respect. It's convenience disguised as care. We live in a world full of grand gestures and fast promises. People think a text, a compliment, or a short apology can make up for long patterns of inconsistency. But the truth is, respect isn't proven in moments. It's proven over time. It's not about how loudly someone says they care. It's about how quietly they keep showing up, long after the excitement fades. The ones who mean what they say don't have to say it over and over. Their consistency says it for them. The dangerous thing about inconsistency is that it keeps you hooked on potential. You start waiting for the good moments to return. You tell yourself, but they can be so kind sometimes, as if that excuses the times they aren't. You cling to the version of them that shows up once in a while and ignore the version that shows up most of the time. But that's how you end up stuck, because inconsistency feeds hope, and hope can blind you to reality. You have to measure people by patterns, not moments. A single good day doesn't erase a long history of neglect. A single kind word doesn't balance a pattern of disrespect. Consistency is the evidence that words have meaning. And the truth is, you deserve consistency. You deserve to be around people who don't make you guess their intentions. You deserve relationships that don't leave you anxious or drained. You deserve respect that doesn't vanish when you make a mistake. The people who truly respect you will show it in the way they treat you when you're at your lowest, not just when you're useful. They'll stand beside you when things get messy. They won't make you beg for basic decency. They'll prove through repetition that your value isn't conditional. Respect is quiet. It's not about the big declarations or the perfect timing. It's about the day-to-day choices that show you matter. It's the text returned, the apology followed by changed behavior, the effort that doesn't fade after forgiveness. It's the steady rhythm of care that never asks for attention but always earns it. Because in the end, consistency isn't about doing everything right. It's about doing the right thing again and again, even when no one's keeping score. Boundaries are the clearest mirror you can hold up to someone's true intentions. They don't just protect your peace, they reveal who genuinely values you and who only values what they can get from you. Anyone can act kind when you're agreeable, compliant, and available. But the moment you set a boundary, when you say no, when you ask for space, when you choose self-respect over their comfort, that's when people show you who they really are. Boundaries don't push the right people away. They just expose the ones who were never meant to stay. When someone truly values you, they'll respect your limits even if they don't fully understand them. They may ask questions, they may need time to adjust, but they won't guilt-trip you for protecting your peace. They'll appreciate that you're being honest about what you can and can't give. That's maturity. That's emotional safety, because people who care about you don't get angry at your self-respect. They feel safe in it, even if it challenges them. But when someone benefits from your lack of boundaries, they'll take your limits as a threat. They'll get defensive, maybe even offended. They'll call you selfish for doing what's healthy. They'll tell you you've changed, not because you've become unkind, but because you've stopped being easy to manipulate. They'll frame your boundary as disrespect because for the first time, they can't use you in the way they're used to. That's not love. That's control. And boundaries have a way of revealing control faster than anything else. A lot of people think boundaries are about building walls, but they're not. They're about building doors, doors that you can open and close when needed, so energy flows both ways. They're not about pushing people out. They're about deciding who gets to come in and how far they get to go. The problem is, many of us are so used to proving our worth through overgiving that we confuse boundaries with rejection. We think saying no means we're being cold. But saying no is often the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for others. Because when you constantly say yes to everything, you start saying no to yourself. Boundaries make your relationships honest. Without them, people get a version of you that's resentful, tired, and depleted. With them, people get the version of you that's calm, centered, and sincere. Because when you're not constantly overextending yourself, you can show up with genuine care instead of quiet exhaustion. And the people who love you for who you are will understand that. They won't take your boundary personally. They'll see it as a sign of growth. They'll respect that you're protecting the energy that allows you to be your best self. Setting boundaries doesn't just test others, it also tests you. It asks you to tolerate discomfort. It asks you to stay firm when guilt tries to creep in. It asks you to stop explaining yourself to people who have already shown they don't want to understand. It's hard, especially when you're used to being the peacekeeper. You'll feel tempted to soften your boundaries just to make things easier. But every time you bend a healthy boundary to keep someone else comfortable, you teach them that your limits are negotiable. And people who thrive on taking advantage of you will keep testing those limits until there's nothing left. The truth is, boundaries don't ruin healthy relationships. They strengthen them because real connection requires honesty, and honesty requires limits. You can't build trust if you're constantly pretending you're okay with things that actually hurt you. You can't build love if you're always shrinking yourself just to be accepted. The right people don't need you to sacrifice your peace for their presence. They'll meet you in the middle, not manipulate you to move the line. Pay attention to what happens after you set a boundary. Does the person try to understand, or do they try to make you feel guilty? Do they adjust their behavior, or do they double down on disrespect? Do they see your boundary as an act of self-care or as an act of defiance? Those reactions tell you everything. Someone who values you won't be afraid of your growth. Someone who only values what you provide will see it as a loss. And that's how boundaries filter people. You don't have to cut anyone off. Their response to your no will do it for you. Boundaries also teach you what you've been tolerating. You start to realize that some relationships survived not because they were healthy, but because you never spoke up. Some people seemed easygoing not because they were kind, but because you always gave in. The moment you stop overextending, you see who's been meeting you halfway and who's been sitting back while you do all the work. That's why boundaries can feel lonely at first. They rearrange your life. But in time, they replace draining connections with honest ones. You can tell a lot about a person by how they respond to your boundaries. Those who respect them understand balance. They know that closeness without respect is suffocation, and love without freedom is control. Those who resist them rely on access, not connection. They want your energy on their terms, your presence without your conditions. They want to benefit from your kindness without earning your trust. Boundaries ruin those dynamics because they take away power from manipulation and give it back to you. And when you begin living with boundaries, something shifts inside you. You stop craving validation from people who never valued you. You stop trying to fix people who break your peace. You start realizing that love doesn't mean overexposure, it means choice. You choose how much of yourself to give and to whom. You stop explaining your limits because the people who care will already understand, and the ones who don't never will. You stop apologizing for needing space, for saying no, for protecting your energy. Because healthy people respect boundaries naturally. Unhealthy ones see them as barriers because they lose access to what they were never entitled to. Boundaries don't make you distant, they make your relationships real. They strip away pretense, reveal true intentions, and bring balance where there used to be burnout. They show you who can love you without taking from you. They teach you that respect isn't something you have to beg for. It's something you build by standing firm. And in the end, boundaries aren't about others at all. They're about you choosing peace over pressure, clarity over confusion, and self-respect over approval. Because when you stop trying to please everyone, you finally make space to be yourself. Walking away isn't weakness. It's wisdom learned the hard way. It's what happens when you finally realize that staying isn't fixing anything, that explaining isn't changing anything, and that trying harder is only breaking you more. Walking away isn't about giving up on someone, it's about not giving up on yourself. It's the moment you understand that silence can speak louder than confrontation, and distance can deliver the message that words never could. When you walk away, you're not punishing anyone, you're protecting your peace. For a long time, most of us confuse endurance with loyalty. We think the more pain we tolerate, the more patient we are. We tell ourselves that love means holding on no matter what, even when we're the only ones holding on. But here's the truth. People who truly care about you don't put you in situations where your only option is to walk away. They don't force you to choose between your dignity and their comfort. If being in someone's life keeps costing you your peace, that's not connection, it's captivity. Walking away is hard because it requires clarity. It forces you to see things as they are, not as you hope they would be. It means accepting that sometimes closure doesn't come from conversations, it comes from decisions. It's understanding that your time, your energy, and your heart are not things to be proven. They're things to be protected. You can forgive someone and still choose not to let them back in. You can wish someone well and still recognize they're not good for you. That's not bitterness, that's balance. When someone repeatedly shows you that they don't respect your boundaries, that they only show up when it benefits them, that they take your kindness as permission to keep taking more, that's your sign. You don't need one more apology. You don't need one more promise. You need distance. Because distance is the space where your self-worth starts breathing again. It's where your emotions untangle from their manipulation. It's where you stop reacting and start healing. Walking away gives you room to remember who you were before you had to shrink to fit someone else's comfort. The hardest part about walking away isn't leaving. It's staying gone. Because your heart will want to go back. It will replay the good moments, the apologies, the almosts. It'll try to convince you that maybe this time will be different. That's what attachment does. It ties you to potential instead of reality. But you have to remind yourself you didn't leave because it was easy. You left because it was necessary. You left because every time you gave another chance, you lost another piece of yourself. You left because peace stopped being possible where you stayed. When you walk away, you reclaim control. You stop waiting for someone else to treat you right and start treating yourself right. You stop hoping they'll see your worth and start living like you already know it. You realize that your energy is currency and not everyone deserves to spend it. You start noticing how much lighter life feels when you're not constantly managing someone else's chaos. You begin to understand that peace isn't found in fixing others, it's found in freeing yourself. Walking away doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care enough to stop being hurt. It means you care enough to choose silence over cycles. It means you've learned that not every battle deserves your energy. Not every relationship deserves another try, and not every apology deserves acceptance. People who value you won't put you in a position where you have to prove your worth through pain. The ones who do are showing you exactly why walking away is the right choice. You'll know you're growing when peace starts feeling more like love than chaos does. When you stop craving attention and start craving peace. When your definition of loyalty changes from staying no matter what to staying where I'm respected. Because the truth is, real love doesn't require you to lose yourself to keep it. It doesn't demand that you silence your needs or explain your boundaries just to be heard. Real love stays steady when you say no. Real respect remains even when you walk away. The world teaches us to chase closure through conversation, but sometimes closure is acceptance. It's knowing that you may never get the apology you deserve and still choosing peace anyway. It's no longer needing someone else to admit they were wrong because you've stopped needing their validation to move on. Walking away teaches you that healing isn't about them seeing your value. It's about you finally seeing it yourself. And with time, you realize walking away is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your strength. It's where you learn that peace is not something you find in other people. It's something you create within yourself. It's where you stop chasing what's gone and start becoming who you were meant to be. It's where you learn that protecting your peace is not selfish, it's sacred. And the moment you start doing that, you stop losing yourself in people who never deserved to keep you in the first place.